on chili dog, outside taste free.
John Cougar Mellencamp can do whatever he like with his chili dog, but I had my heart set on some cold vanilla soft serve swirled in that familiar cake cone. You've entered the Gen Experience. I'm Victor, and summer wasn't summer without a few visits to the neighborhood walk-up window for an ice-cold frozen treat costing only some loose change. Tastee Freeze, A&W, and even the classic Ice Cream Man is how we beat the heat during a Gen X summer. As a reminder, if you haven't already, please click subscribe to see more great content like this. And please press the like, and let's take this YouTube time machine for a spin. Everyone loves a great beer. Or is that a bear? No matter, we'll get to that soon enough. First stop, Tastee Freeze. Tastee Freeze was not made up for Jack and Diane, but was a popular ice cream stand that never got much larger than a small car wash, where teen boys and girls lifted the small plate glass to take your order at the walk-up window. Especially when on the shorter side, we'd hang from that stubby metal shelf attached under the window that was always scalding hot. Like a good playground slide, with a lot of speed and a whole lot of third-degree burn. The window was just big enough for a head to peek through, and was a common sight in the era. We were there for sweet heat relief, and Tastee Freeze had you covered, literally. They were simple, offering ice cream cones, sundaes, dips, shakes, and banana splits, attracting young and old to those walk-up windows. Soft serve was the name of the game, when the founder invented the soft serve pump in 1950. Franchises were instantaneous, and Tastee Freeze began popping up all over the country, as well as an expanded menu in most places. There are few of us who can deny the salty, hot with creamy sweet decadence that comes from French fries dipped in soft serve. So if your funds allowed it, maybe a basket to share. The menu was familiar, and by Gen X, there was a limited supply of quick eats. Nothing more than concession stand style food, but it warmed your belly. Little plastic letters and numbers to snap and slide onto a standard menu board branded with the establishment's soda preference was all too familiar, hanging for all to see. Prices that would shock today's youngsters, Tastee Freeze wasn't the place to get specialty treats like a blizzard, but the usual suspects of summer sweet goodness. Like the cone, ice cream ever so delicately pumped into a cone, but not any cone, the Tastee Freeze branded cake cone. Who remembers this little guy? Up on the wall or shelf in the little roadside cafe, he showed just how scrumptious one of these things might be. Although cake cones don't have the flavor like a sugar cone delivered, the ice cream was the main attraction. Vanilla was standard, but they offered a variety of dips to cover that perfectly shaped ice cream swirl with chocolatey, strawberry, and even butterscotchy goodness. Turn that cone upside down and into a cup, allowing for a variety of toppings. The sundae was your second go-to. You didn't have to race to eat from the bowl before the sun melted the contents down your hand. Enjoyed by spoon, you could relish the flavor of each topping-covered bite. The banana split, it was traditional and made fresh. This was for the more sophisticated palate than mine, and I always seemed to consider it a more grown-up option. Or perhaps it was our youth aversion to fruit that had us avoiding this menu choice. The mid-century was fading behind us, and the short-lived mascots, the naked T and F, get it? With globs of ice cream topping on their head, strawberry for T, the female, and chocolate for F, the male, were all but a memory to this generation of customers. That goes for the tie-in comics and the doll giveaways from some of their earliest days of operation. Various construction designs and architectural styles were used for the buildings during its heyday too. Some were holdovers, even some curious tiki overtones, but they wouldn't last. The most common was the streamlined low-level building with struts, great for holding up shade structures. They were simplifying by the 70s and 80s and had cut back from the 1800 stores nationwide. This wasn't to say they shied away from the gift with purchase or limited runs or specialty merchandise, like these Halloween cups that definitely defined the era, and what every fast food location offered, stained glass or Tiffany-styled glasses. Remember any of these? Check out more on these in my Fast Food Glasses show. Fully into the 1970s and 80s, the menu was tight with burgers and chicken along with fries, not to mention hot dogs, complete with chili. No cute names, they were little more than accessories to the main attraction, ice cream. Kids biked there with friends or walked in groups to be welcomed by a friendly teen who you looked up to, figuratively and literally. The advertisements were clean and straightforward by now. There were still choices, and you were careful to select just the right heat-beating treat. Summer never tasted so good. Tastee Freeze did incorporate some indoor seating locations, but most, like ours, was straight out of the walk-up window days. They most often had a simple drive-through, but for those who braved the shiny hot window ledge, after only a short wait, could indulge your taste buds at one of the handful of picnic tables along the side, and if lucky, under the shade of the cantilever roofline. It was all part of the experience. There was no question you would sit there, together, silent except for the slurping and lapping up of every last drip of that ice-cold deliciousness. These picnic tables were also a gathering place of the locals, and if you stayed long enough, you were sure to run into someone you knew or a whole family on a similar outing. Older siblings taking their younger brothers and sisters out for a treat, or parents taking the kids on a walk. Young and old indulged in the simple, delicious ice cream from a traditional ice cream stand that was just big enough to accommodate the demand. Before or after a visit to the park, watching family members' baseball games, Tastee Freeze was affordable, old-fashioned fun when a visit there was an event in itself. Sadly, the numbers are only in the hundreds now, within just 7 states. Bears with beers. No, not that kind of bear and not that kind of beer. A root beer float, the signature item for every A&W. Always served in a frozen mug straight from the freezer, A&W also has roots in the walk-up window to serve the local neighborhood on a day outing or for a family winding down a summer evening. A&W, named for founders Allen and Wright, had come a long way from the first stand, selling root beer during a World War I hometown parade back in 1919. Known for draft root beer and root beer floats, the first permanent stand was in Sacramento in 1923, with curbside service by Tray Boys and Tray Girls. A year later, they sold their first franchise. Not only were they the first successful franchise operation, A&W is cited as the first restaurant chain in America. Franchisees began adding more things to the menu, but it wasn't only their menu that was growing. But enough of that. If you were lucky, an A&W was in walking distance of your home growing up. Simple stands made way for drive-up service. They still included curbside service, but now under environmentally friendly rooflines straight out of the 50s and 60s, complete with car hops. Families on their way home from a function might stop under the roof and right next to a lit menu squawk box. Being greeted at your own speaker, you flicked the toggle lever to speak into the box and make your order. It was like a drive-in movie, but only the concession stand part, and you didn't have to get out. The familiar brown and orange colors were warm and inviting. Double rows of cars lined the property, with servers hopping out of the restaurant to deliver food on trays that conveniently hooked onto the driver's side where the window rolled into the door. This way, mom or dad had control of distributing the food to the carload, and everyone ate in relative comfort of the car while listening to the radio or music provided by A&W's outside speakers. Who needs to mess up the house with dinner when you can leave a mess in your car? Am I right? You didn't need a car. A&W seating was provided in permanent stools, benches, and tables down the middle of the lane, separating the vehicle traffic. This provided comfort for those wanting to step out of their car or who had ordered at the walk-up window. Although interior seating would eventually come to some A&W restaurants, ours remained the car hop style until it sadly closed. Very similar in look to today's Sonic, but with class and actual customer service. Representing mealtime at A&W were a number of mascots. In the 1960s, a character named Chubby Chicken appeared on all Chubby Burgers. The Chubby Burger was retired, probably a good idea for multiple reasons, and in 1963, A&W introduced 4 choices of hamburgers and their corresponding burger family member: Papa Burger, Mama Burger, Teen Burger, and Baby Burger. Each burger had a wrapper featuring a cartoon image of the corresponding character. Just like McDonald's, I looked forward to graduating to the next size up as I got older. How about you? A&W not only claims to be the first to introduce the world to the bacon burger on their menu, but a 1/3 pound burger to put Ronald in his place back in 1980. However, the latter didn't catch on due to most people thinking it meant a third of the quarter pounder.
Math class is tough.
Math is hard, and a good idea was lost. Back in 1971, A&W Beverages Incorporated, a beverage subsidiary, began supplying bottled A&W products to grocery stores. The bottled product would become available nationally and be very, very popular to this day. When A&W became available at the grocery store, homemade root beer floats became a mainstay after-dinner treat in every household. It was a family event to be able to recreate the famous restaurant offering right in your own home with their very own ingredient. You've probably had your fair share, but that's for a whole other story. By 1974, there were more units than McDonald's, 2,400 restaurants. Only remnants remain of the late 60s mascot representing the familial burgers. You could still order them, but by 1976, a new face would adorn menus, signs, and merchandise. and proved too popular to let go during the 70s, 80s, and 90s. A short hiatus starting in the late 90s allowed the All-American food to be represented by the All-American comic strip family, the Bumsteads of Blondie and Dagwood fame. But Rudy the Root Bear would return in the 2000s and now takes his place of honor as the voice of the company, while Mama Burger took the kids and left Papa as the only family burger on the menu today. Do you remember Rudy, the Great American Root Bear? How about the Burger family? Have any of that merchandise laying around? I fondly remember getting straws with purchase at our A&W. When sucking on the shaped plastic, you could watch the soda fill Rudy's head before landing on your tongue. At the time, I considered it one of the wonders of the world. Pulling into A&W induced a level of excitement. How incredible to use the oh-so-technologically advanced squawk box to order, then wait anxiously for a server to appear and balance the tray on your car door and window. Sitting together, chatting with the radio playing a baseball game was a special stop on your way home for the night. Who needed the dining room table? We were still having dinner together as a family. I don't think they're related, but it's this guy that I have a greater emotional attachment to. Now our last stop, when ice cream was king, is a bit more low-key. When it was too hot to go anywhere or even loose change was scarce, the sound of a strained calliope or warped electronic version of Pop Goes the Weasel was the sweetest music to our ears. In the 60s and 70s, there were stories of drug dealing out of ice cream trucks, and in the 70s and 80s, there was stranger danger, where unsuspecting kids were being abducted in seconds right at the sidewalk in front of the house by the ice cream man. All urban legends, of course. Well, maybe not the dealing. Not only were we smarter then, we also came in packs, running after that sound, increasing our group size as kids came out of nowhere to help try to get the driver's attention to stop. We had the coin and wanted a rocket pop, drumstick, orange sickle, or anything to freeze our tongue and make us forget the intense heat of long summer days. So many options in these mysterious vans, the signs, the posters and flyers that layered the surface of the vehicle, one on top of each other like a teenager's room covered in magazine cutouts, was visual overload, and it was hard to decipher all the options. You only had so much money, so you usually had to keep it basic, and just relegated those higher-priced, colorful options to out of reach. Options that, to this day, you maybe never got to try. Reaching our hands out and up to the curiously apathetic individual in the window, we traded our silver for wrapped gold, ice cream or popsicle gold that made any summer day a red letter one. We shared, sat on the porch with friends or others from the neighborhood, and bragged of how perfect our sugary treat was and what we would get the next time that Pied Piper of summer dreams drove down the road. But for now, as we all sat with sticky fingers, we contemplated what to do next. Mom didn't want us in the house. We loved being free outside and had become pretty good at entertaining ourselves. With our ice cream fix satisfied, we had the whole day ahead, and tomorrow, and the next day. Time to explore the ravine, walk the railroad tracks, or ride our bike to the candy store. A whole lot of nothing in particular during the carefree summers of Generation X. What do you remember about the Gen X summers? When ice cream was king and we all screamed for it. Did you have an A&W, Tastee Freeze, or was your go-to the ice cream man? Or were you one of those who always got to choose from 31 flavors? Let us know in the comments and we can all discuss it there. Right now, I recommend watching this. And look around the channel for other great content too. Please consider helping me out by taking a moment to press subscribe for more from that era that brought us the best of everything. Thanks to all of you coming back to watch and to any new viewers. I hope you enjoyed this look back, and we'll be rediscovering more from a Gen X summer during the season. Until next time.